Well, welcome to the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. My name is Paul D'Allegro, your host as usual, and my guest is Todd Schuchart. He is the founder of Sales Chowder. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Thanks, Paul. How you doing, man? Doing good?
Doing well. Well, one of the things that interested me about you is I've been in sales my whole life. So whenever I hear sales and how to sales lead generation, my ears perk up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the space that you're in, and it got me interested. And I'm all, to me, there's never a magic bullet on how to generate leads, but I'm always looking for that magic bullet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the Indiana Jones, right? We're on the quest for whatever he's on the quest for. I mean, you have to. Yeah.
No, and it's getting harder. I mean, I would think that you've been around a long time. In the old days, you just was cold calling, right? Yeah. Just get on the horn or actually knock on doors. You and I talked about this before the show, about the old days. You had to actually physically go and meet a receptionist and find out who you had to speak to. And but those days are long gone. I don't think anyone does that anymore. What do you think?
I think it's very limited if they are. Unbelievably still, though, it is effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, it's kind of like everything old is new again. You remember a few years back, handful of years pre-pandemic, they had the guys would spin the signs on the street corner, buy gold or get your tax. Sandwich boards were around in the 20s, right? And then they went away, and then they came out with the sign spinners, and it was like, this is so new. No, it's just you haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah.
So it feels new. So I think that if anybody's got the stones to go out and still bang doors, you should, because nobody's doing it.
Yeah. And I would think just human nature. It's easy to not answer your voicemails and not return calls or hang up on people. But it's a little tougher when you show up and you see someone face to face. And if you're polite and courteous, I think that would maybe help, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You lose the keyboard tough guy, right? Now we're just two people staring at each other, and we're going to be a little bit more civil. So, yeah.
Well, so Todd, tell me a little bit about, what you do at Sales Chowder.
Chowder. We
John, I said that like a Bostonian, by the way. Sales Chowder.
Chowder. Yeah, you gotta throw it in there. It's gotta be extra. You got a little sizzle on the chowder.
And once, I kind of want to find out how you started, but really the key crux of this conversation is going to be lead gen around AI. I'm fascinated by that. So I'm dying to find out what you've learned. And I certainly don't expect you to give all your trade secrets today, because people are going to pay for those. But if you could give us a little morsel, that'd be great.
We can throw some crumbs on the table for sure,
There
Paul.
you go.
So I started my career building and rebuilding sales teams, and all on dumb luck. I've fallen into the majority of my career. I love to tell people I'm here on accident. And got into the digital space in 2007. Knew really limited amount. I'm probably like most people at the time. You use the computer for what you needed to, and I went ham on it and learned everything: SEO, web development, content, social. How to structure things, shoot your own pieces, all that kind of fun stuff. And all that leads to, at some point, is you start generating leads for what you're doing, and you realize, hey, wait a minute, this is kind of easy. Once you get the skill sets down.
Sure.
Right? It's like anything that you do repeatedly. You start to just realize. And the reality is, I believe that it's easier to start and scale a local business today than it's ever been.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Well, I can be my own broadcast, right? I'm no longer reliant on the local newspaper or the local TV channels. Matter of fact, I don't even look at those as viable options anymore. They're kind of the expensive dinosaur that's just kind of, still roaming around in the background waiting to fall in a tar pit. So I can create my own channels to syndicate to. I can do my own Facebook, my own LinkedIn, my own Instagrams, TikToks, you name it.
Sure. All the social media platforms.
Blog. Yeah, all of it. And then, the key to most of that stuff is Jeffrey Gitomer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Gitomer's Little Red Book of Selling, it's Giver's Gain, right? Be of value, earn the right to ask. It's the old school stuff that I think kind of gets lost in all the new hacks and guru-y things and, courses and all that stuff. And the reality is the only thing that's changed is the medium, right? We went from stone tablets to paper. Well, we went from paper to digital. There's still a person on either side of that box, right?
Okay.
And so many people get lost in, well, this is the internet. Right, but it's still, if there weren't people, then it would just be a paperweight. So we're still have to communicate with folks. So those old school quotes, skills are still incredibly important. It's just how do you apply those to a new medium? And that's probably the hardest part is to figure that piece out. So there's some really simple things. The first is copywriting. Right? So if I'm going to write copy for somebody in your industry, Paul, I'm going to picture you in my head as I'm writing my copy. I'm talking to just you about a problem that I know you already have because maybe we're friends. We've talked, right? So now I know, and I'm gonna address that. In my resolution, and when you do that, when you talk to one, it will absolutely resonate with the many. But if you talk to the many, you lose the emotion that comes from a one-to-one conversation.
Okay.
So that's your first major tip, right? The other is consistency. You have to, so remember back in the day when all we had was TV and you wanted to catch a show and it was on Thursday at 8. Where were you Thursday at 8?
In front of the TV.
In front of the box, baby. Because if you weren't, what happened?
You missed it. And this was before, I'm assuming before VHS, right?
Yeah, all of it. I mean, there was a schedule, right? So you have to take that kind of mentality and go, okay, every Monday, come hell or high water, I am releasing a new piece of content at noon. Now what happens is you're training people how to consume you. They know that to look for you at noon. It's your schedule. You're running your own media company. So you can't put a piece of content out, not get any reply and go, that didn't work. Because there's so much noise. The challenge is cutting through the noise. So you have to consistently be showing up for people to see you. Those are the two biggest kind of pieces that I think can send somebody at least in the right direction to start figuring out how to get out there and generate things for themselves. And then the last piece on that is you don't tell the how. It's the what and the why. And when you get really good at what and why, people feel like they've learned some how from you.
Right.
Like you feel like you just learned some how from me.
Correct.
Right? I didn't teach you how.
Right.
I told you what and I told you why. And that's the art form of the internet. Right? I've got to do just enough to get you interested, but not so much that you feel like you can make a decision without speaking to me. It
makes complete sense. You got to get the hook.
Simple. Yeah. Oh, hooks are everything. Hooks are the fun part, right? So if you can sell, you can market. If you can't market, let's rephrase that. Everything is marketing. I don't care what you sell, you're first a marketer. Right? And it's a shift in mindset completely. So you're in IT. You don't sell IT services. You market the solution that those things deliver.
Right.
And I hate to bring Apple up because everybody does it, but here's the deal. Apple was brilliant at this. Remember all the MP3 players that were all over the place? I mean, everybody had one. Every manufacturer made one. Some manufacturers told you how many gigawatts were in there and hoochamabobbits and whatnots and things of sorts. Nobody cared. And then Apple came along and said 10,000 songs in your pocket. Me, average consumer, I get that. Now I want in, right? So the first thing is don't sell, market. Speak to one person and syndicate with consistency. Be someone of value, give to get. And when all that lines up, it's beautiful. It works. It just starts to click along, right? And you're in your mode and you get a little rhythm down. And like anything, though, you have to find your voice. So it takes a minute to figure all this out.
Yeah.
The only way you do it, though, is you start. I imagine that your first time doing a podcast was a little clunkier than it is right now, at least internally.
Yeah, no question. I tell this to everyone all the time. I was a nervous wreck my first few podcasts.
Yeah.
Not that I'm Joe Rogan now, but I've done 150 of these. They get easier, and you're more relaxed. That's the thing. It's like an athlete, right? If you're nervous when you're ready to catch a ball, throw, you're going to be nervous, and bad things happen. But if you're relaxed, good things happen.
Yeah, so take boxing, for example, right? Like a boxer, for every live round of sparring they do with a partner, they do 3 rounds of shadow boxing. Nobody in front of them. They're envisioning somebody there, so they're pairing punches that aren't coming, you know? And what you're doing is you're role playing in your head scenarios, and you're building muscle memory. So when that pressure
Right.
comes, you're relying on your training. So for sales folks that are nervous about this, you practice. Preparation will absolutely destroy nerves. You have to build the muscle memory. You have muscle memory. You're so relaxed and comfortable. I feel like I already know you.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do. That's where you want to get online. And I'm going to tell you in the beginning, you're going to be beet red, sweating, cold, cotton mouth. The whole thing will happen, right? You have to keep pushing through that uncomfortable if you want to survive in a world that we have today, in the way that the economy is run.
Yeah, that's a great
right?
point, by the way, because I tell people that getting out of your comfort zone isn't easy sometimes, but if you're prepared, the nerves are okay. But as you get more and more, like I relate it right back to my podcast. I remember the first few podcasts, I was a nervous wreck. I studied, I watched every detail. And then after I was done a few, I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. You realize it's not as bad as you think it's going to be.
Right, and it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, these are fun to me now. I meet all sorts of different people. You and I would have never met if it wasn't for the podcast, right?
Right. And that's kind of the power of the internet.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a local guy, it's really hard to connect with a local guy in another state or the other side of the country or the world, for that matter. I have partners all over the world.
Yeah.
I've closed deals in countries I would never visit. all from this room, right? It's like I'm an international operation, and I've never left Greenville, South Carolina to do it.
That's funny. But I think that story is probably pretty prevalent. I mean, we sell, we're a Texas-based company, but we sell all over the U.S., and we do some international business as well. Like you said, if it wasn't for technology, being able to communicate and see people around the world, it would probably never happen.
No. The biggest challenge I see people struggle with is that they forget, and you know this, KLT, know, like, and trust, right? When people still have to know, like, and trust you. I'm not buying your company, Paul. I'm buying you. You know this, right? And for anybody listening,
I've said that a million times.
They have to experience you, right? So the way that you craft your message, the language you use, what naturally flows out of you, that's what the internet needs from you, right? It doesn't need a dance video. You don't have to do anything crazy. None of that stuff, right? We're in business. That's not really unless you're a dance instructor, that's not really what we do, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to be wacky. It can just be this, your face. Actually, this is the best you can do right here. Just your face in the camera, no silliness going on, and just speak your truth.
Yeah. So when let's take it a step further. Someone comes to you and says, geez, Todd, I got a company, I've got 10 salespeople, 5, whatever it is, and I want to grow. How do I get our word out there? I know you've touched on a couple of things, but what are the next steps after, get your messaging out there, using all the different social media platform? What comes next?
Paid. So there's a couple things. You can always work on your organics, your search engine optimization, all that kind of fun stuff to come up in the rankings organically. And truthfully, at this point, Paul, the way AI has kind of taken over the search results, local probably has the best play there still. National might be struggling. I think we're seeing like a 30% cut in internet traffic currently, because I'm getting my answer but without having to click anything, because Gemini will supply it to me right in the search results.
Sure. Yeah, good point. Good point.
There's a lot that goes into that. And that's probably 15 podcast episodes all by itself. So paid is what we can chat about, because paid to me is scalable.
Right.
I know that if I can get a lead for $20, I can get 10 leads for $20 a piece. So what we can do now is it's a matter of systems and automations. So salespeople, like, I have not had a sales rep prospect that works for me in probably 8 years. Everything we do is funnels that book appointments for them, or it's a lead that goes into an AI system that nurtures into an appointment for them.
Okay.
The biggest challenge in sales is the things that old school guys like us had to deal with. The call reluctance, banging on doors, feeling nervous, getting over all that, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Correct.
That's a lot, right? And you lose most young sales guys to call reluctance.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I sold stock in the early '90s, and man, you get these college grads come in, and they'd leave at lunch and never come back again because they realized it was just a high paying telemarketing job.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, we've all done it. I mean, I was, matter of fact, I was having this conversation with my wife this morning because I was telling her about you being on the show and how prospecting has changed. In the old days, you know, you'd sit in front of your computer and just make calls all day, and it was daunting, right?
Yeah, 300 dials a day is what we did back in the day.
Yeah,
right. That was quota,
but with almost no positive results. So
no,
you know, you get up the next morning and you're like, I got to do this again.
I was always hunting for 3 good stories. That's what I was looking for every day. 600 dials, 3 stories. That's all I needed. I needed 3 people to agree to do something with me over and above hanging up on me and telling me what a loser I was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember, I got one funny story. You got me thinking about my cold calling days, and so I finally get someone on the phone. I remember this vivid. It's probably like 20 years ago. So the guy says to me, "All right, Paul," he goes, "Tell me why I should buy from you." So I went through the spiel about how wonderful we are. He goes, "Guess what, Paul? The last 20 guys that I talked to said the same thing. So what makes you so special, you know?" So I forget how I handled that. I ended up getting an appointment with that guy, but I think I said, "Look, you're not going to know until you engage with us, right? So why don't you give us a shot?
Yeah.
Let us prove to you that we can, and I'll tell you what, if we can't, we'll shake hands and go separate ways. I'll never bother you again." He said, "All right, why don't you come in?" So we set up a meeting. I forget it's been so long, I forget what happened, but I just remember that guy just calling me out, right? Mm-hmm. You know? And he was respectful about it. It wasn't like he was rude, but he was just like, you know, I get 100 calls a day.
No, but he gave you a shot.
He gave me a shot.
Here's your shot. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right? So everybody listening, how are you different?
Yeah.
And don't tell me it's because of your features, because that has nothing to do with anything. Nobody cares.
I
don't care until I care.
Yeah.
And right now I need to like you to even think about whatever the hell it is you're trying to tell me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest piece. They say 4 to 7 seconds. That's what you have, right?
You got a short window.
Short window. And it sounds like it's such a hard thing to do, but it's actually relatively easy. It's just high enthusiasm. Hi, Paul, what's cooking? How's it going? What are you doing over there? What are you drinking?
Yeah. Tea.
Right? And you're right in the mix.
Yeah.
Now Paul's talking to me. Hey, guess what we are? We're people. And we're just connecting.
Yeah, I've always said, you know, and I think a lot of the young folks miss this, is as a salesperson, you really manage a relationship, right, versus selling product. I mean, to your point, you hit it right now. I've said this, people have to know you, like you, and trust you before they'll buy from you. So how do you get there? I don't know. That's the other, you know, I'm sure you have your own strategies and that, but I just feel like just being yourself, getting to know people, find some common interest. You know, like I'm looking at your background there and I see stuff in the background. I see a New York Yankees cap. It doesn't make me happy since I'm a Red Sox fan. But you know what I mean? Like we can find common ground to kind of, and I always try to do that. If I'm in someone's office, I look at the knickknacks in the back and see a picture of something and, you know, someone sports related family, and I'll question them about it. And of course, everyone wants to talk about themselves. So
100%. And when you can't see it, you just do really simple. We do this one all the time. Where are you calling in from? Where are you, by the way? You're in Texas, right?
Right.
But you're a Sox fan in Texas? That doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Yeah, I moved here in '97. My wife drugged me down here, as they say. From Boston.
So see what we just did? Now you're talking to me. And that's the whole game, right? If I could just get you to talk to me. And you know, it's not the fact that I have better baseball taste than you. I'm not going to get in a fight with you about that. But it's I can relate. You know, oh man, you must be missing the winter right now. You know, because I know it's warm in Texas and it's not so much Northeast. So there's so many little things you can do there that if you don't have the visual, that you can still extract from somebody. We can, and you know the rule. You don't talk about religion. You don't talk about politics.
Yep.
You keep it surface level. This is like how you doing, buddy, at the bus stop stuff, right? It's not. So tell me about that bunion. You know, we aren't diving that personal. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. And so, from those pieces and going into paid, Paul, that's where you get to learn your lessons the fastest. You get to learn your content that works the best with your audience, because you can run a couple bucks through an ad. If it gets results, great. If it doesn't, messaging's off, or your audience isn't right.
Yeah.
So it allows you to scale quickly and to figure out where you work and where your audience segments are. And then once you have that, the rest of this is conversion.
Rinse, repeat. Yeah.
Get them in, and then we put them into our systems, and then our AI agents remove the need for you to call to book appointments. They'll nurture them for you. Yeah. You show up to the appointment, and you do all your wonderful, charming things. You open the call, you build rapport, you get them to know you, like you, trust you. Jordan Belfort says they have to know, like, and trust you. You're offering your company at a 10.
Yeah.
Anything short, you're not getting the deal. I believe the sales call is won and lost at hello. Closing doesn't happen at the end. It starts at that intro. And if you don't make that connection, you're dead in the water.
Yeah, and I think from my experience, one of the mistakes a lot of sales folks makes on that first call, they push too hard.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard that. One of the best counsel I got was from a customer down here in Texas, a couple of years ago. He said, and I worked with this guy for 2 years before he actually started doing some business with BB. I knew him pretty well. And he said, what I like about you, Paul? He goes, you're not always trying to sell me shit. And I worked on building a relationship, and we ended up doing a fair amount of business with him, and I golfed with him. He became a friend, but I just took the long road versus, and this is one of the problems with sales managers, I think, and I'd like your opinion on this, Todd. They heap so much pressure on people to produce that you start doing unnatural things.
So, this is kind of like dating. People smell desperation.
Yeah. Good point. Great point.
Nobody wants to be around somebody that has that hump your leg desperation, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's uncomfortable. And so sales managers' problems are, a lot of the times, they aren't given the tools they need in order to be able to understand what you just said, right? You got to give your guys runway to do that, and you have to support them in doing so. So if you need quick money, you need a quick money product in your portfolio where you can just hawk that. Yeah. But if you're trying to build relationships and long-term lasting, business partnerships, you got to do what you did. You say you weren't selling, but you actually were.
Yeah,
that's the way you. Yeah, that's the way you sell, right? Yeah. An interesting thing. I've built and rebuilt sales teams in my career, and one of the things I started doing before I went out on my own, my last couple of gigs, is I would come into their company CRM and I'd export the entire CRM into a CSV file.
Okay.
And then I would alphabetize the names. And the last place I was at, I had 20,000 records.
Oh boy. Yeah.
By the time I got done, I had 8.
Yeah.
I had 12,000 records of XYZ, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, because the manager was mandating that the rep put data into a CRM system so the dashboard looked good to their boss to prove activity. And what they ended up doing was they taught, okay, here's how I'm going to keep that manager from crawling down my throat. I'm going to put in all these fake accounts. And now what we have is we have a whole ecosystem of junk. Nothing in there was real. Versus if you give me runway and make the investments, a year from now, you're never going to ask me to hit my number ever again because I'm never going to miss it.
Yeah. No, what you're saying resonates with me so much. I've worked at some big companies, and it was all putting stuff in the system just to get past the next pipeline call. Just, because if you don't, all you do is they're going to grind on you, and you're saying, how do I get past today?
Yep.
And
then you know what that guy's doing if he's got any skills? He's looking for another job.
I was going to say, and there's so much turn. That's another thing that kind of bugs me about sales is there's just so much turnover in sales. And I'm wondering, okay, you spend all this money hiring a guy, investing in him, and then you grind the guy so hard that after a year he just gets up and leaves, and now you're at square one again, and you've basically got nothing, and you start. But companies continually do this, which makes no sense to me.
Nope. It's really prevalent in the insurance space. And I think it comes down to we hire the wrong people under the wrong premise, and we have poor managers in place that maybe shouldn't have been managers to begin with, or we don't really know how to train our managers, right? Or we forget that that sales rep is, just like we said earlier, a person.
Yeah.
I realized in my career, somebody came in one day. This is a good story. So I got to go to the Masters in Augusta.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really pretty sweet. But and the reason it happened is one of my sales guys, his family has had tickets there forever. And there's actually pictures of Jack Nicklaus at his house when he was a kid, having a picnic.
Wow.
Right. So it's just forever. So we're going and we're driving, and he's telling me the story. And I had rehabbed this particular branch, and he was one of the guys that was there when I originally got there. And I was making them do sales things, knock on doors, prospect, and all the activities that led to them being able to sell. And he started making money, like real money. And we're driving one day, and he's like, "Oh yeah," he goes, "My stepson is back in the house this week." I said, "Oh, that's cool. He hasn't been around a while." He's like, "No." He goes, I go, "How's he doing?" He goes, "Good." He goes, "I was telling him that I was going to the Masters today." He said, "Who are you taking?" He said, "Oh, I'm taking Todd." He goes, "The son of a bitch?" So when
funny.
he was at home with them, he would come home at night and go, "You wouldn't believe what that son of a bitch made me do today." And, for the first time, it stopped me dead in my tracks. It's a great story, but as a manager, I was like, oh my God. I'm the dinner conversation at all these people's homes. Like, they're either praising or not so much to their spouse about what I am or aren't doing. And it really changed my perspective on everything.
How so, though? When you say change, how did it change you?
Well, I was a grinder, man. I mean, I was been a top sales guy. I've never missed a quota in my career. I've always been a top producer. I've always worked really hard and pushed myself to do that. I read my first sales book in the 6th grade. I'm not normal.
Yeah.
And I was expecting, I was kind of demanding that people perform at my level with my commitment level. And that just doesn't happen, So what I realized was there's a lot more to this than just grinding out numbers, right? There's a wife that, cares about that husband. There's kids that love that husband. There's, or wife, wife. And it changed the way that I kind of looked at things. And I started to I took the blinders off and started to look at it more holistically. And I think realizing, and that equates back to what we're saying about content and everything else. You got to talk to one person, not the mass. Nobody's you. You're going to be you. They're going to be them. How do you get them to function inside of your system? So, Paul, that's where the automations come from for
Okay,
me.
that's kind of what I was going through next is, okay, how do you automate this thing? Because a one-to-one phone call is hard. It's
hard.
Yeah.
So there's a couple tripwires, right, for every sales organization. The first is organization. We're not going to talk about manager issues because that's that's a whole different thing. But from a street rep's perspective, right? We've got systems. They need to work, function, and they need to be easy to use, right?
Agreed.
So you've got to have a streamlined, easy system to use. Otherwise, I'm not going to use it. I'll say I will, and I'll say I did, but I'm not gonna. Then we need to have a consistent flow of leads. Right? If you don't have a consistent flow of leads, and I'm not talking about junk, give me a phone book. We've all done that. We're not doing that anymore, right? Give me leads that are interested in what I'm doing because they raised their hand, which is why paid advertising is one of the best ways to do this. So now they're in my ecosystem. Now what do I have to do? I've got to get them on the phone. And what's your most valuable, precious time as a sales rep? It's your time presenting under pressure, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, we have to grind the phone to get to those opportunities. Not anymore. And that's what I got sick of. As a manager, I felt like I was babysitting these guys for power hour. Get on the phone, make your calls, blah, blah, blah. It was horrible. I hated doing it. They hated it being done to them.
Yeah.
But it's also the thing that every sales rep stops doing first. And the thing I never understood about that, it's the only thing that gets you to payday. You can skip everything else. As long as you're prospecting, setting appointments, and closing, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Right? Your paperwork, I'm a notoriously horrible back-end guy. I'm a front-end guy all day long. I have somebody who cleans me up now. So what do? We got to get them off the phone. We got to get them into more sales meetings, because that's what's going to get senior management off of my case,
Right.
to make me grind production numbers in a CRM that actually mean nothing. So we leaned at first we leaned into funnels, because that's all we had. So this is about a 15-year adventure for me at this point. We started building sales funnels. People would come in, they would go through a little video sales letter, like a quick presentation, what, why, not how, pain relief, typical stuff. They book an appointment with our team. We send out meeting reminders all the way up to 6 minutes to that call happening. Now all my guys do is get on the phone and close. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, very cool.
But there's a whole nother process where organizations are bringing leads in from multiple locations. So you can't always control that landing page. And sometimes B2C, it doesn't work as well. So what do we do there? That's where AI really comes into play.
Okay.
So we've built, from the ground up, we built our own AI system, literally hand-coded the whole thing.
That was actually my next question was, do you have a platform that's your own platform? That just answers that then.
We do. And we did that because I wanted the sales brain to sell the way I sell, right? I'm a conversational seller, like you, relationship, conversational based. You're going to say something, I'm going to interact. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to listen to understand. I'm not focused on what I'm supposed to say next because my stupid script tells me to. None of that stuff. I just want to connect with you. Let's be dudes. We're both people. We can rip on each other about our horrible baseball decisions. We can have fun with that, right? I'm a Northeasterner myself who's down in the South. I mean, we've got a lot we can bust chops about and get to know each other with. The key for me was, though, is that I look at a lot of the systems that are out there and they're using OpenAI as their sales agent. That's cool, but it doesn't understand the nuances like a couple of senior guys do, like we do, that have been able to feed themselves on commission-only gigs as long as we have. And that so that was important to me. So I put in there's things in my sales brain people today don't even know, because these guys aren't even alive anymore. Like, their books aren't printed anymore. Their cassette tapes have, all but melted in somebody's trunk of their car. Yeah, it's old school stuff. But again, until it's not people selling to people, old school is going to work, because that is when we really master emotion, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's refreshing to hear that. It's refreshing to hear that, Todd, to be quite honest. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Does your company go into organizations and kind of help them with this, or are you just exclusively using this in your own companies?
Such a good question. I originally was building this to sell it to others to use, right?
Okay.
And then I slowly started to realize, I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm leaving so much on the table. And everybody's opinion about what does or doesn't work isn't really entertaining to me anymore in my life. When you start to dial, and I'm not trying to be arrogant here, but when you start to dial in a system and you are a top performer and you've consistently been one, you have a certain set of skills that you want to translate into being able to use, and not have somebody who's sold for 5 minutes tell you you're wrong. So I built it for the world and then decided to keep it for myself right now. And what we're doing, and I say that because we're dialing it in currently.
Okay.
So I'm going to prove in the next 2 quarters that not only can I onboard sales agents, I can train them, I can stick them into a sales simulator that we've created, I can get them proficient before dropping $1 on a lead, and I can put them in the field and book them 4 to 5 sales calls every single day they want to work.
That's impressive. I'll tell you, as a sales guy, I'm like, that's unbelievable. If you could do that for a salesperson, that would be because that's a lifeblood of sales, leads, opportunities, right? I mean, there's a lot of good sales folks out there, but getting to the table is the hardest part, I think.
100%. Now let's say you got 3 to 4 times, 5 times a day. You can do that. Where are you going? The leaderboard is going to be a neck and neck race now. It's not going to be the 20%er, trying to chase the 80%er. No. They're all going to be fighting for the same thing. So we get good at what we do the most. So if you get really good at setting appointments early in your career, your sales skills kind of lack.
Right.
Right? Because you haven't gotten to the sales appointment enough to get through it. So you spend a lot of time getting really good at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, if I take the beginning off the table and all you have to focus on is the dance, you become a really good dancer.
100%. I agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more.
I can take, in this process, Paul, I can take a green sales rep from 0 to what we call smooth with a V as butter in 100 appointments. Done. I know my investment. I know it's going to cost me $2,600 to get Paul from 0 to smooth. And when I'm ready to make that investment, Paul's going to come and work for us. And I'm going to book him all these appointments. And I know you're going to fall, you'll be a blind squirrel. You're going to fall on 10% of them for the first couple of weeks. Your closing rates are going to increase. And by the time you get to 100, you're going to be better than my old top performer.
Yeah.
Right? Because you tunnel vision. You just got one thing to get really good at. And if all you had to do all day was this, you'd be the best guy doing this.
It's like anything in life, right? I think I heard a state that the best violinists in the world and all the best people that do instruments, the one thing they have in common is they practice for 10,000 hours.
Yep.
Right? Repetition, right?
Yep.
You don't just I think there's probably a few freaks out there that can be just natural at it, but the normal everyday person has to do things repeatedly to get good at it.
100%.
So
100%. Anybody that says they didn't, that's 1 in 1,000 or 1 in
it's
1
in a million probably.
Rare.
Yeah, it is rare. So, but anyway, Todd, this has been great. We could go on for hours. I think you and I we love this topic so much, but we're a little bit limited on time, so I don't want to extend this out. But if anyone wanted to reach you, how would they do that?
Yeah, so you can go to todd@saleschowder.com. You can just email me there. You can find me Todd Schuchart on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm kind of lingering around out there, I know I'm supposed to have this really incredible call to action right now, but the reality is this: I'm so findable.
Yeah.
Type it in, reach out. I'm not going to bite. At least not too hard. We don't draw blood anymore. We're getting older.
Well, I'm super interested in your platform. To be honest with you, I'd love to see if you could help our company with that too.
Yeah, I'd love to chat with you about it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Well, we'll end on that note, Todd. Like I said, I think we've given a lot of people some good information, and they know how to get in touch with you. And so glad I had you on the show. I knew this was going to be a good show. We talked earlier. I said, this guy's just a great personality. Again, talk about selling to people, right? It's, sometimes you click with people, and sometimes you don't, unfortunately. But this was a great show, and look forward to maybe doing something with you in the future. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, Paul, that'd be awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me, and everybody listening, thanks for listening. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that's it for another edition of the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. This is Paul Delegro signing off until the next show.